Councillors, could we be outstanding? We recognise the traditional owners of the land. We are inspired by the early pioneers and by those who gave their lives for our vision. We now ask God's blessing on our deliberations and on our commitment to build a better lifestyle and environment. Thank you. Good afternoon, and our meeting is being recorded, so we'll proceed on. Have we got any apologies for today's meeting? None on. The confirmation of the minutes of the statutory meeting held on Monday, November the 8th. Can we have a motion in regards to those minutes, please?
Having moved the motion, Mr Mayor, they are an accurate record.
And I'll second that, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haswell. All those in favour? It's carried. Any matters coming out of those minutes? Obviously not. We've got some presentation of the award. That's our next segment, so we'll just pause for a minute as we have a presentation.
Yes, Mr Mayor, thank you very much, and it's my pleasure to be able to conduct a presentation to you in particular for taking on the mayoral position for the next 12 months, and I have some paraphernalia to put around your neck and to present your gavel to you, if you wouldn't mind. And on behalf of the Shire, Mayor Driscoll, this is your gavel for the next 12 months, which if you don't get kicked out in the meantime, this will you'll be retained at the end of your service. So congratulations. Well done.
Now, as a reciprocal exercise, our Mayor, I'd like to call him forward, Councillor Murray Emerson, to present him with his gavel and record of his fine years of service, and it's particularly, I think, the last 2 years have been bloody challenging over COVID, all that sort of stuff. It was make it up as you go along, all that sort of stuff. It was tough, all that sort of stuff. You did a great job in steering us through that. So once again, on behalf of council and community, well done here. It's great job.
There was a gift for the mayor that was.
Oh, sorry. For the best operator, who was, as I kept saying, Murray's wife, at the end of the day, he reckons he goes, I said before, goes all right, but he's in he goes about half as good. When he makes his right control and gets all that sort of, gets the best out of him on all those tough days, tough nights. But this is a little appreciation for her as well. So make sure you take that home and don't open those on the way home.
Well, I can see a bottle of wine.
Yeah, that's it.
We might drink on the way home. Thank you very much.
So we've got the disclosure of interest or conflicts of at our meeting. We've got those that we need to clear at this stage.
Mr Mayor, do we need to declare anything about WJ point? No.
We'll cover that in the delegations, will we not? Yeah. Now, item 7 is the informal meetings of councils, which we've had a few. Infrastructure breeding, economic growth, lifestyles and community. Could I have a resolution that informal meetings of councillors be approved?
Happy to move, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Irwin. Second.
Yes, second, Mr Mayor.
Ostarsky. All those in favour? That's carried. We haven't got any items brought forward as such, so we'll go to the next stage of our meeting, which is reports. And 9.3.1 is a planning application for the Wild Horses Music Festival. Can I have a motion or commentary or otherwise?
Mr Mayor, I'd like to move that the Council approves the planning permit application number 5.2021.94.1 to allow the temporary use and development of land for place of Assembly Music Festival between Friday 25th and Sunday the 27th of March 2022, which includes live music and entertainment, camping, food vendors, craft stores, car parking, creation of all-weather road, native vegetation removal and associated works at 99 Tawny Road, Karapuru West, which is also known as Lot 1 PS 505918L, Parish of Karapuru West, and 4799 Sunraysia Highway, Karapuru West, which is also known as Crown Lot 68B, Section A, Parish of Karapuru West, as submitted, subject to additional conditions that include to increase the level of security to have a static presence at neighbouring driveways, in addition to the driveways, increase the level of litter collection and removal on adjoining neighbouring property with owner permission, and that the organisers provide residents with the opportunity to leave the festival at the organisers' expense. And B, issue a notice of decision to grant a permit.
Thank you, Councillor Starcevich. We got a second of the motion.
Happy to second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Councillor Starcevich, would you like to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mayor. The Wild Horses Festival is the latest in three previous festivals held at the same premises called the Babylon Festival. They incorporated something up to about 6,000 people in the last one. This festival is capped at 2,000 people. The benefits to the community have not been detailed in a study. However, there are very clear indications from local business owners and tradespeople of the benefit that has been incurred through this process, through the festival. It's documented in the recommendation from the planning officers and council. Some of the numbers that the Economic Development Group have cited is that there's an increase of 20 to 40% of trade across that weekend for businesses in town, and the tradespeople, electrical and carpentry services that lead up to and after the event are quite considerable. So not only do trades and businesses get benefit from this, so too do other local community groups. Sadly, this occurrence will not see the Student and Progress Association attend, but the other groups, CFA groups from various brigades will no doubt attend and see some benefit from that. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Councillor Starcevich. Councillor Earl.
Yeah, I think it was well covered by Councillor Starcevich. Those additions addressed the concerns that some of the objectives and myself had, and hopefully all goes well and the CFA attends on a good note, not on a necessary note.
Indeed.
Thank you, Councillor Earl. Any other councillor wish to speak?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'll be speaking against the motion, as I have done in the last three previous planning applications for music festivals. Firstly, I'd make the point that music festivals are not conditional towards the well-being of their community. They are a festival that has very poor law enforcement due to the fact that we just don't have the law enforcement people in all facets of the people that are involved in it, through the EPA, the CFA, the SES and the Victoria Police. They just do not have the people to successfully enforce some of the very bad behaviour that goes on in regard to those types of festivals. I think I've said it before, they're drug infested, they create problems for families, they create problems for authorities, they create problems for just about everybody that goes there, other than a small minority that just go there for the enjoyment. So I don't think we should be issuing a planning application for that event because of those reasons. Another reason that I've seriously considered recently is the risk and responsibility of the Shire if something goes wrong, and it's a decision that's made by myself and my fellow 6 councillors, but then the risk and responsibility if something goes wrong then comes back to the Shire. Of course, some of that responsibility then goes to the Municipal Association of Victoria, who is the insurer of most of these events, and I know from experience, because I'm on the board of the MAV, and I've had previous 30 odd years police experience, I know that these things do occur. I know that the MAV organisation are not happy when there's any events going on that aren't particularly well looked after, and I think this is one of those. I've had a look at the reasons for the objections from the 5 objectors, and I recognise Anne, who was here today, as one of the objectors. They have some very appropriate objections, I believe. Dust, noise, bad behaviour, trespassing. There's a number of others, I can't think of them off the top of my head. I think they're all very relevant to the Northern Grampian Shire not allowing this application to go ahead. I've also, over the last 2 or 3 times that we've been dealing with planning applications for music festivals, I've tried very hard to work out where the economical benefit stands. Yes, people come into town and buy some food. Yes, people buy alcohol and goodies on the site. Yes, some people have a really good time. But in my opinion, the biggest economical benefit is the person standing at the gate with the powder and the weed in his possession, selling it to the unassuming people that come into the venue. I don't agree with that. I think it's wrong. I have vast experience in regard to that, but having 32 years in Victoria Police. I've actually been to the festivals in an official capacity. I know what they're like. They spread bad times for people, and I don't think our shire should be getting involved in it. In fact, not many rural shires anymore are doing it. I know there's some argument about the government wanting to open up Victoria and get things moving. I don't believe they're opening it up for us to have festivals, music festivals like this one. They're my objections in the debate against the motion. I don't think we should be leading the way in okaying planning permits for these types of things. We are an event-orientated region of Victoria, the Northern Grampian Shire. I don't think we need these events.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor
Yes, thank you, Nick. I'd like to say thank you, Councillor Emerson. That's right on point as far as I'm concerned too. I won't be voting for the motion. I'll be voting against it. And thank you. You put it so succinctly, Murray. And a great deal of thought goes into these things, and I think we need to be careful of our shire, and we need to look after the people within the shire, especially our residents.
Thank you, Councillor Basil. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lindsay.
I would agree with the mover and seconder on this motion in terms of the information we've been presented, and that all levels of authorities are happy with it. And there's been a lot of planning put in place for these to actually go ahead. So I think there is a large economic benefit that it brings to the town with the number of people that come in, and from my point of view, we need to be a progressive council and look at what we can provide for our community rather than what we can produce. And we're not a law enforcement organisation, so to me, reading the information, if it's covered off by the police and the other authorities, that they're happy to do it, and I think I don't think we personally can, as a shire, are the ones that can stop people from doing the wrong thing. It happens all the time, at someone's home during the week or at the pub on the weekend, that there may be drugs and other things occurring. So I think that makes it difficult. And then from a health and wellbeing perspective, should look at it from a broader view. There may be some implications there, but then when it comes to even just as council or council staff providing planning permit applications approved for things like fast food outlets, that the health and wellbeing, not benefits, but the implications that has on society in terms of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease and obesity is quite higher than the lives lost to drugs and alcohol. So that's just, from my point of view, we just need to have a consistent approach across everything. But I understand the points that are being discussed for sure. It's a contentious topic, and but from my own personal perspective and the information I've been provided, I think it's a worthwhile event to be had, and it seems like the right planning is put in place by the authorities to ensure that it's reasonably successfully run event. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Starsky, if you like.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I recommend that the motion be adopted on a number of levels, and one of the issues that we often fail to remember is people have the right to enjoyment and entertainment as well. Having been involved in the last 3 Babylon festivals directly over 3 days, I have been witness to a number of people at those festivals. It's not a small minority; it's quite a large majority of people that enjoy those festivals. There's the previous, and again, I can't speak to this organiser, I can speak to the previous organiser, had in place good medical facilities, good policing, good security. The local police enforcement were walking the grounds as well, so they had a very clear presence on site. I think that the festival itself is worthy to proceed as long as those additional conditions are also included in their quite extensive list of conditions that they have to comply with. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
If there's no further commentary, we'll put this motion to the vote. Those in favour? Those against? Motion is carried.
Call for division, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Emerson. Those in favour? Councillor Starsovich, Dempsey, Grady, Irwin, Driscoll. Those against? Councillor Emerson and Councillor Asper. Thank you. Our next item is (9.4.1), which is our procurement policy. Have we got a motion on that, please?
So wait for us to scroll down.
Oh, okay.
It's a long way there.
Yeah,
It's a long way.
Page 22 of those.
Got their team?
Yep.
So I'm calling for a motion for this policy, please.
Go on. I'd be happy to move the motion, Mr. Mayor, that, let me get back to it again. Thanks. That council adopts the procurement policy as attached to this report and requests the procurement policy to be reviewed by the 31st of July 2022.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. We've got a second to that motion. Councillor Starsky. Thank you. Councillor Emerson.
Well, the procurement within local government is a very important part of the business that we undertake. And I just point out in regard to supporting the motion is under the new legislation, the procurement policy must, as a minimum, specify the principles, processes and procedures that will apply to all purchases of goods, services and works by council, seek to promote open and fair competition and provide value for money, establish a threshold and processes for public procurement, provide for collaboration in procurement, include the conditions where goods or services may be purchased without inviting a public tender or expression of interest, describe the process of how a public tender or expression of interest will be undertaken, be viewed at least once during each 4-year term of council. If we look at those points of interest, Mr. Mayor, I think procurement policy is a very important policy for our Shire, and in fact it's now legislated under the Local Government Act, and we are required to do it.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Councillor Starsky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In addition to those points, the previous Local Government Act 89 specifically set thresholds. It also allowed councils to seek ministerial direction or decision. This new Act now allows councils and decision-making bodies to set their own thresholds, and it no longer requires or no longer provides an avenue for councils to seek approval from the planning minister, from the appropriate minister, I should say. So there's a greater emphasis on self-determination within councils. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stacey. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That motion is carried. 9.4.2 is the quarterly finance report. Should I get this one a bit quicker? So a few pages away.
That's true.
It's that close that I've gone past.
Yeah,
Throw it back there.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council notes the financial report for the first quarter ending 30th September 2021.
Thank you, Councillor Dillon. Second by that one.
Happy to see you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Emerson. Councillor Dillon.
I think the financial report shows we're in a pretty sound financial position. There is quite a few carries overs from the last financial year, but I think we're tracking along fairly well and yes, under trying circumstances, and things are continuing along quite well.
Thank you, Councillor Dillon. Councillor Emerson.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I certainly support Councillor Irwin's summation of the motion. In addition to that, I'd just like to add, because we've been through such a difficult time with COVID over the last 2 years, congratulations to our CEO and our finance people in Mr Williams' department. A job well done, and the report looks pretty good for us financially.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. We all concur with those comments. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, put that to the vote. Those in favour? That is carried. 9.4.3 is the Workplace Plan and Gender Equality Action Plan for 2021 to 2025. Thank you, Councillor Dempsey.
That's very weird. So I move the recommendation that the council adopt the Northern Grampians Shire Council Workforce Plan 21 to 25, which includes the Northern Grampians Shire Council Gender Equality Action Plan 21 to 25.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. We've got a second, brother.
Add a second.
Thank you, Councillor Dillon. Councillor Dempsey.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So this plan has been, I guess, council staff have found it more beneficial to include the equality plan within the workforce plan, but with a series of separate actions that will come out. Being a smaller rural council, financially and with the resources provided, this seems to be the best option for our council. The purpose of the plan is to enable council to acknowledge and adopt the plans effectively, which is complies with the new state government legislation. So I think we're all aware there's a lot happening around the gender equality movement at the moment, and getting actions and an actual specific plan within council covers off on the local government requirements, but also shows us that we can be the leaders in the gender equality movement as well, and making sure that everyone has a fair and equitable say and involvement within the community. So it's great to see the team that have put this together there. It's more than just a document to them. From what we've briefed on, they're really keen to look at the data and information within the actions within council to for Northern Grampian Shire to be a leader in this movement. So I do commend the plan to council.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. We'll just break again. We've got someone coming in. We've got to check the compliance.
Oh yeah.
Have any patience?
Yeah, it's just part of the protocol we've got to go through. It's just council. Well, let's work with that.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you, Councillor Dempsey. Councillor Earl.
Yes, look, it's well summed up by Councillor Dempsey. Obviously, the plan sets out the structure for council and over the next 4 years, and I think it'd be really good if we could actually fill those positions that are vacant now. It's like most small councils within Victoria.
Excuse me. We're having a meeting here. What?
Yes, look, I think it's a good step. Probably in my time in council, gender probably hasn't been an enormously huge issue. We've always had quite a diverse council staff, and so I don't see it as a big leap forward, but it does put us in the position where we need to be. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gould. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, I'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That motion is carried. 9.4.4 is the CEO employment and remuneration policy.
I'm happy to move at this point in time, if that's all right with you, Steve.
Thank you. Just really call you back.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got a motion around that. And you thank you, Councillor Starr.
The recommendation that the council adopts the CEO's employment and remuneration policy.
No, we have the second, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Councillor Starcich.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think our CEO has done the Shire very well over the past preceding period. And it's good to note that we retain a person of such calibre to provide direction for the council staff.
Thank you. Councillor Emerson.
Thank you. Nothing further to say, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, put that to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. Call our CEO back in.
He doesn't need to leave.
That's all right. Yeah, that's all right. 9.4.5 is the appointment of council committee delegates and representatives for 2022. Quite a comprehensive list, and just an illustration of councils involved in many community groups, boards, or whatever. I think everyone's committed to something, so can we have a motion around that, please?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I'm happy to move the motion that the council appoint the councillor and officer delegates for 2022 as detailed in the attached report. So I believe that's also available on council's website. With the amendment of the MAV delegate, currently that delegate is Councillor Emerson, and the alternative representative, which is a sub-delegate, to be changed from Kevin to the current Mayor, Tony Driscoll. So that will be amended, and with the addition as well of myself to the appointed to the Store Neighbourhood House Committee of Management.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey. We've got a second for that.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Haswell. Councillor Dempsey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you really did sum it up as well. It's great to see the community groups that we as councillors can represent and provide that conduit between council and community, which is pretty much the reason that I looked to join council, was to have that connection from my community back to council as well, and vice versa. So I think it's great that we can get up there and be representing a vast array of committees as well, with a list that does just keep growing and changing. So I think it's great to see us doing that, to provide that support, that then our community can see that we're serious and we're taking action as well, and really listening to them, which is, I know for me, that's what I'm all about. So yes, that is all. Thank you.
Councillor Haswell.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Dempsey. That was really well stated. I probably don't have anything further at this point.
Thank you. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not,
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to make a comment about the committees. I think it's council life that we become part of our community through our committees, as Councillor Dempsey has suggested. And I know personally, from my point of view, my involvement in some of those committees, and I can't think of the MAV Audit Committee and whatever the others are, and I know Councillor Irwin has a list longer than your own that he's got to be responsible for. I think it really puts us amongst the community, lets us listen to what the community has got to say, and some of the authorities as well, which we can then bring back to council and have a very clear and honest discussion there. So I think they're very important. I encourage all of my fellow councillors to make sure they make themselves available to me.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson, for that contribution. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, we'll put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. 9.4.6 is the council meeting schedule for 2022. Basically an alternation between Stawell and Sonoma. Councillor Irwin.
I'll move that council adopts the proposed meeting schedule for 2022 as listed in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Have we got a seconder? Councillor Starcevich. Councillor Irwin.
Yes, Mr Mayor, look, this schedule seems to have worked fairly well over the last number of years. I can remember when we used to meet in the evening and get home at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning sometimes. So yeah, it made it a long day after a briefing starting in the early hours of the morning. So I think this schedule, we changed it to try and encourage people to come along to see council meetings. It's been relatively successful. I think no matter what time you try during the day, I think it won't suit everyone. So I think this schedule, alternating between the two major towns, has been a successful one.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Councillor Starcevich.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. For the very reasons that Councillor Emerson stated, that all councillors should attend community meetings and organisations. Alternating between the two towns shows the face of councillors to the community, allows us to attend, as we did this morning, with one of the local residents regarding the flood walk, so to speak. I think that the alternating program is quite good.
Thank you, Councillor Starcevich. Any other councillor wish to speak?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Emerson.
I should have taken my anger pills before I came to council today. I seem to be the Christmas Grinch, so I'll be speaking against the motion. I think it's time that council realistically looked at the cost involved in sending all of their councillor people and their delegates across to St Arnaud once every second month. There is quite a considerable cost. I think I counted about 6 cars that had to come over this morning. So I think it's time, and bearing in mind that we're now looking at having our council meetings come through the cloud, as Mr Williams would say. I think it's time that we seriously had a look at maybe basing our council meetings in the one most accessible, financially advantageous place. So I'll be speaking against the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Lindsay.
From my point of view, as I mentioned in the briefing, I'm happy with the times that it's at currently, but I think as well for future planning, it's tricky to be working and to be attending, being a councillor as well, especially for young people and especially for females. And I think that's probably shows that it can, for young people to get into working, having families, and also being a council representative can make it quite tricky. So I'm happy with the motion as it stands, but I think in future it would be good to, and maybe the Gender Equality Act might support some of that to see with, and even the remuneration that's currently happening with the external tribunal, that there might maybe more younger people come into local government as well, to see that it's tough in the way of managing everything you do, and being a councillor is pretty much full-time in itself. It doesn't pay a full-time salary by any means. So in future, to be able to put wholeheartedly everything into the role will require some additional support, I think, that hopefully externally or state government even can provide us.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor Irwin.
I think what Councillor Dempsey said is correct. I feel that myself, that travelling takes that extra time when you've got other commitments. And I think that maybe, I don't want to forget about St Arnaud. I think perhaps we could make it a little less frequent to St Arnaud, maybe 2 and then 1 and 2 and then 1, without, sort of split it a bit more fairly and evenly and save some money and people resources at the same time.
Councillor Hasmore. Any other councillor wish to speak? Councillor.
No further.
Put that to the vote. Those in favour? That's carried. Those against?
Christmas.
Happy to. 9.4.7. This is a formal road naming of Zabina Lane. You've been up there this morning, team. You should know where it is.
Yes, very familiar.
Water.
Mr Mayor, I'm happy that council names the unnamed road of Dunstan and Trafalgar Street, St Arnaud to Zabina Lane, and B, extends the road name to include the access road to a nearby property development.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Have a second for that? Councillor Mr. Thank you. Councillor Irwin.
Perhaps not having all the local knowledge, but I have seen the road, and it's strategically placed up there near the Lord Nelson Park. And yeah, look, I think it's named after a well-known person from St Arnaud, and has a history with St Arnaud, and gold mine, I think. Is that correct?
He was mentioned in gold mining. He was civically involved in the community as well. He really the Lord Nelson gold mine.
A great attachment with St Arnaud, so I think it's very appropriate that the road gets named after him.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Councillor Starswitch.
Nothing further, thank you.
You have councillor wish to speak? If not, we'll go to the motion. Those in favour? Motion is carried. 9.4.8, another road name, Boothie Street.
Scroll down far enough, I can say. Thank you. Got in early. So the recommendation that council gives public notice of its intention to name the unnamed road of off King Street and Hill Street Stall as Boothie Street.
Second for that one?
Happy to second.
Councillor Irwin. Councillor.
So I think in these situations where we are naming roads, we really take the advice from the local historical societies, and it's great to have the roads named with proper meaning and purpose after certain people and places. So for this one, the history records show that Mr. Walter Bartholomew Boothie owned a large section of this block for some time, and it's understood that the Boothie family owned the whole block at one time. Mr. Boothie also ran the corner store in Cypress Street store, so there's a bit of history for you all, but I think it'd be, it's an appropriately named street that requires naming, and that's all.
Thank you, Councillor Lindsay. Councillor Irwin.
Yeah, Councillor Dentley summed it up well. The recommendations, the advice came from the Historical Society, and what a magnificent name, Walter Bartholomew Boothie.
It's just good, isn't it?
We should use the lot and see if we can fit that on a sign.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, we'll put that to those in favour. It's carried. 9.4.9 is an instrument authorisation and appointment versus an operational or an important operational motive. Anyway, we've got.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As is my resolve, I always try and move Mary's motions because they generally are so short. So in this case, it is rather short. I certainly move that the exercise of the powers conferred by Section 147, Clause 4 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, Council resolves that 1. The members of council staff referred to the instruments be appointed and authorised as set out in the instruments. The instruments come into force immediately. And number 3, the instruments remain in force until council determines to vary or revoke it or the officer's employment with Northern Randwick Council ceases. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor. We've got a second for that one.
Happy to second, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Irwin. Councillor Starswitch.
Thank you. The instruments allow delegated officers the right to undertake certain actions without which council will not be able to function appropriately or properly, and it's appropriate for council to take these resolutions.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Irwin.
Yes, Mr Mayor, look, these delegations refer to a number of people. I thought it was 4, but I can only see 3 names there. I think it's 4, isn't it? 4, 3. Okay. So it covers a bit of a broad brush, but they do require those instruments of delegation to run their job. So happy to second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Irwin. Any other councillor wish to speak? If not, put that to the vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. We've got two notices of motion or decision. So I don't think we've got any more. No. Reports from councillors or committees. Any reports? Anyone wants to report?
Mr Mayor, we did have a meeting of the Western Highway Action Committee on Friday. It was noted the condition of the highway all the way along. It's falling into disrepair, starting to break up, and for the second busiest freight route in Victoria, it's not a good situation. Had grass and metre high growing down there. I know they're partway through their slashing program, but honestly, for a road of such importance, it looked a bit like a bush track. And certainly the message was delivered loud and strong to the department. But hopefully things can improve in the new year, and the works can be done, because it does carry a lot of traffic and is continuing to grow and grow and grow. Nearly 1,600 trucks a day, so it's a fairly important road in Victoria, crossing between Melbourne and Adelaide, and some to Perth. And it was mentioned about the stop signs at Stephen Street. There's three projects they're working on. Stephen Street's one, the Golf Course Road roundabout in Horsham, and the Nil stacking problem with the railway line right in Nil. So I think the lights are due to happen around mid next year, and they did suggest that it might take 12 months to actually complete the job. I guess there's a fair bit of power and those sorts of things, pre-works to be done. So hopefully there's not too much interruption to the highway.
Thanks, Mr. Any other councillors?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Brady.
We had a meeting of the Halls Gas Ratepayers Association on Wednesday. Councillor Emerson came out with me. We had quite a good turn up there. There was a few things, the ongoing problem with the television reception is one which we've been looking into through Dan Steen's office. That's sort of a bit of a hard one to get going, but we're working on it. There was brought up about the compactor board and put the compactors in out there, and it was discussed that because of the change in policy, the government, how many beings are going to have in all this, explained that the compactor would be, if you compact all that waste and then all of a sudden they say you can't put it in the landfill, you're like, what do you do with it? So they went along with that. There was a bit of they were worried about some works going on in the valley floor before the permits had been issued. I went out and had a look myself on Friday, and there was just a couple of fence bays put in, so obviously they've used an excavator to dig some post holes down there, but it's actually, so I'll get back to the committee on that. There was talk of, on the e-bikes, been a still ongoing problem, but Councillor Emerson explained really well the difference in motor vehicles, and it's probably got through some, but anyway. We've had a look, and I've checked them all out. I've been talking to the owner, and they are speed limited, and he is actually working to the rules, so it's probably not his responsibility once those bikes go out the shop. It's a bit like hiring a car or Avis or anything like that. The operator's got to be responsible. And there's one clean-up site for off-road parking for the locals when they're working. There's a huge amount of big pile of dirt. There's old pavers stacked up behind, just sort of north of the service station, and if it was cleaned up, you have a huge amount of room for cars out the back there off East Street. So I'll just ask council down the track to have a look at that and see what we can do. The other Tandara Road, there was reports of tree, bush has been cut down and cleaned up and on council land. Well, it's not. It's actually in right down in the creek where the piles are. So we'd have to talk to Parks or Delft to see who's responsible for that. But Paul, the president, was very happy with the meeting. He really was probably one of the best ones that they had out there for a long time. So we achieved quite a bit, I think. And I've been ongoing with Paul since that meeting on a few issues and looking pretty good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Keep up the good work. Right. Any other Councillor or Councillor Dempsey?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. I think it's really great that we can be out and about doing things again. I think for a while it was, Zoom meeting after Zoom meeting, and it's not quite the same as going out and actually attending things face to face. So it's great that things are happening. Some of the things collectively I think we've been involved in recently is the pop-up parks launch, opening finally, that had been delayed a number of times in Stolen Halls Gap. So it was great to be able to officially have those launched. There's a Happy Sad Man event, which was a film in Stolen Sonata that was run by Grampians Community Health in line with Northern Grampians Shire Council as well, supporting that. So it's great to get people out there talking about mental health, and particularly for men as well, and actually have a bit more community connection conversation around that. There also was Remembrance Day events across the Shire as well on, obviously, Remembrance Day, the 11th of November. But the one I really want to touch on was a coaching course that I've been doing with OAM Ruth McGowan through council. She provides support for newly elected females in local government. So that's with a number of other councillors from across the state, and so that was to be able to get a bit of extra information on how local government operates, and just absorbing all the knowledge and everything I can throughout that process has been quite beneficial. So I appreciate council allowing me to do that as well. Just a few things have been happening lately.
Thank you, Councillor Dempsey.
There was one thing that I did with the pop-up park. The Ratepayers Committee wanted to send their thanks and congratulations to the council and the staff for putting it in, and they're all hoping that it stays there, so it doesn't get removed. So yeah, that was just from the whole committee. They were all really impressed with the park. I think it's a great thing.
Thank you, Councillor Gray. Anyone else? Yes, Councillor Ross.
Thank you. At the recent SCAN meeting, the debate regarding the traffic lights was raised, and there's a view pushed to council previously about switching out the traffic lights from what they are now to zebra crossing and flashing lights. The general consensus of the group that met was that it would be good to have that measured against the benchmark, which is the traffic lights that are functional. Right now they're not functional, and everyone's basically reaching the use of those things because they just don't press the button and don't turn the limits. So as I understand it from Mr. Fiddle, the sensors need to be replaced. Those sensors are detected when the back of the car passes after someone's pressed the traffic light, and then there's a variable time, and previously it was set at about 20 seconds. People respected the lights, now they don't, so that increases the hazard for people crossing. So I think council need to look at replacing or repairing the sensors so that the general consensus on which way to go is reached under considered position. And I have had a number of responses, and at the moment it's 50-50. The other thing is that there are a number of people that actually don't know they've been started from the new town signs, so that they're actually seeing and they're happy. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Emerson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've got a number of things here, and I was expecting that I wouldn't have much to report when I stepped down from the mayoral position, so sooner rather than later you'll be taking over all this. I've had a couple of meetings, one with the CEO, working with the Store Gift Event Management Board, doing some really great work there, the CEO and the board, and can just about guarantee that the Store Gift 2022 will go ahead. That's not definite, but it's very, very close. Store Recreation Committee advisory group met the other day, and there was discussing the plan for North Park install. What a fantastic opportunity we have there to showcase the community stall, if through nothing else, through that sporting facility and the sporting ground that we have there. Just going to be a wonderful example for not just our community but for other councils in what we can provide if we really put our nose to the grindstone. And of course that goes hand in hand with the development of Lord Nelson Park. The MAV has had one board meeting and one MAV insurance board meeting. Had a lot of discussion, they take a lot of time. Hopefully we come up with some decisions that hopefully help all councils. The big issue at the moment is Minister Wynd wanting to take over our planning. I don't think any councils in Victoria are too pleased about that, so we're fighting pretty hard about that. The North West Municipalities Association, and for those that aren't aware of it, it's a group of local councils throughout North West of Victoria, stretching from Mildura over to Horsham down Stawell, over to Donald, over to Swan Hill, and then back to Mildura. It incorporates 8 councils, and the other day we had our second meeting for the year, and we had about 25 people attend the meeting, which was outstanding. It's really good. One small thing that I didn't get to attend, which would have been right up my alley, was the Stawell West Primary School eating competition. Unfortunately, I had too much else on, or I would have loved to go there. Thank you.
Okay. All finished?
Yeah.
I'll just make one comment. I've been quite a good with over this Murray 7 years busy, but I just want to make a point about the Staff Recognition Day. A great initiative in terms of our staff. I think sometimes, and certainly made me think, the sorts of years of service, two of them here, Vaughan and Mary, they're the people that make this show run. And as I said, I just compare and congratulate Leanne for organising that. But sometimes I think we take things for granted, and I just want to reinforce what a great day it was. And the councillors that were there with me shared that day. You know, it was, as I said, it really made you sat back and thought, you know what, who's doing all the work? We guys are up here doing this, doing that, but they're the blokes that make it one. So well done to the Vaughan and Mary that are here, but all to every other, and Jonathan as well, that make this show run. So congratulations and well done. Now, Now we're at the stage where we've got to close our meeting because we've got to do some confidential business. So can I ask the members of our gallery on a motion to go into that?
Happy to move a motion that we suspend standing orders and go into closed council.
Thank you, Councillor Emerson. Councillor Irwin. So could I ask the members of our gallery to please excuse themselves? You can come back in after we've finished our confidential business.